and welcome to this week's live weekly warm-up. I'm really excited. This week's going to be sort of an extension of what we did last week and is going to help us with crossing the break. So last week, if you remember, we did the B jumping jacks where we got really comfortable with finding those keys and getting all of the holes properly covered when we're doing the long B. And that B that we usually go to when we're crossing the break. You could also do that exercise with the C if you need to, but if you can do it for the B, then you'll probably be in fine shape for the C. The other really important thing, though, when you're crossing the break is not just being able to find these holes and land on the holes for the B, but the other important finger thing, at least, is going to be getting your finger off of these like throat tone keys if you're going from like B to A or G sharp to B or any of those keys. Because this little finger motion here can be a little bit complicated if you're not comfortable with it. And the goal of this exercise is to get really comfortable with that. So just a quick little introduction about how these fingers should move. You want, whenever you're playing like the A or the B flat or even the G sharp, you want this first finger to be as close to this key as possible, but you want to make sure that you're not actually touching that key because that can really change the pitch if you do. If you hold this ring down or cover this hole, you can really not play those notes in tune. So we want to be very close so that we can get to that key easily, but we don't want to be actually touching it at all. So that's what this exercise is going to be all about. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on an A for just the demonstration, but you can mix it up and I'll talk about how to do that after demonstrating. We're going to start on the A and we're just going to work our way down chromatically. And I like to do this in sort of like a 6/8 pattern or a triplet pattern. So you go A, G sharp, A, G, A. And then you can also repeat as many times as you need each of those intervals to make sure everything is like very, very minimal motion. You're keeping all of your fingers very close to the keys and everything feels easy and relaxed. So let me demonstrate that. I'm going to go down, starting on A, all the way down to A, C, A, because that's a usually good range to do it. That covers all of the left hand for these left hand exercises. So that's the exercise. You can also do this starting on B flat, where it's the same exact thing, but up on B flat. And do it, repeat it as many times as you need to. That time I was probably going a little bit too fast and not repeating enough, and it wasn't clean between every single interval. So if you're actually doing this for your warm-up exercise, like take your time, get everything really, really precise, no extra blips in between. Then, of course, once you get it slow and like super precise, then you can work on speeding it up a little bit. Just remembering that this motion and keeping all of this motion really minimal and relaxed is super important. One super common mistake that people make when doing these sort of throat tone keys is moving the wrist way too much, and you might be a player who goes like this. That's probably a little bit dramatic, but you want to see if you can get the motion all isolated to your finger. So it's and really strengthen that finger motion so your wrist isn't getting too involved. When you have to move your wrist, it changes the position of all of your other fingers, so they might not land on that B super smoothly when you're going like this, especially when you're pivoting the wrist this way to get the A and the F sharp, then you end up pulling these fingers really far away and then they have a long ways to go for that B. And that's where we get the super common over the break squeaks where your right hand might be nice and close, you're on the A key and these fingers are not nice and close, and then you go to play and you get something like that where like these holes aren't covered for a split second, and that can cause a squeak because you have that leak coming out up there. So that's it for this week. Make sure as you're doing this exercise that you repeat it many, many times so that you get a really good connection between these. I like to say if you repeat something like 3 times, say it goes bad the first time, better, and then good enough the third time, then you've actually practiced it twice, not as good as you would like, and only once as good as you would like. So that's 2 times as likely for it to go wrong in your brain. So you want to always practice like, it's okay to have a bad rep. It's okay to have even 2 bad reps, but getting there, even 3, but make sure that you have at least 3 really good ones that you want, and ideally even more good ones than not so good ones. So really take your time, get in the repetitions on this, and I challenge you to try this exercise for this week. And if you combine this one with last week's about those B jumping jacks, then you'll probably be able to cross the break no problem, as long as you keep your embouchure and your air nice and steady. So thanks so much for watching this, and I look forward to seeing you next week in next week's live weekly warm-up. And I hope you all have a very happy Memorial Day and are staying safe and healthy as always.